Welcome back to the channel where we uncover the absolute mess that is going on inside the ruling party. Because honestly, if you haven't been paying attention, you might think things are normal. But the reality is that there is total chaos behind the scenes, and you can see it all over the face of the Secretary General Fikile Mbalula, who is looking more stressed. Motsepe threat has deepened. Now please make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a like, because we need to get this truth out to as many people as possible. And I want to hear your views in the comments about whether you think the ANC is finally finished, or if this is just another day of them fighting over the crumbs of what's left of the country. So drop a comment below and let's get into the madness together.
Let me say to you that there is nothing that they've bolted. We know that people discuss issues of leadership and all of that. There's nothing that is bolted. Anyone who's going to produce t-shirts, support wrongdoing, the ANC will deal with those people in terms of the discipline. This is not the time. We are aware that people are discussing leadership choices and all of that, and they liaise with you as the media. And because you like the subject, you pep it up all the time. But from the point of view of the movement, the issue of succession of leadership is closed. It will be opened at the right time. Mischievous characters who don't understand the moment we are in, overzealous individuals who don't care about the movement except their own personal interest, don't understand the moment we are in. Nobody says that they don't have a choice. If you have a choice, you will have enough time to motivate to campaign for that person. In the year 2027, the National Executive Committee will open for that particular discussion. At the present moment, root and branch, we are focused on the task of ensuring that the ANC live up to the expectations of our people, and that the ANC does well above 40% and beyond in terms of local government elections. There will be no 2027 without 2026. So before you get to 2026, you must pass, before you get to 2027, you must pass to 2026. So question of songs that are composed by people in my name and all of that, they are very nice. Bob Marley and so on. And then they say good things about me. I know there are people who say that you must be president, you must be this and that. They sang for me here in the General Council, receiving the report that I presented. It doesn't get into my head. The moment will come to discuss these issues and for me to reflect and to pronounce myself in relation to those particular matters. But we cannot lead our movement above our interests. We need all hands on deck, unity of purpose. People must wait with their candidates. And we don't want to single one candidate. We saw t-shirts being produced. But those t-shirts, if we found them in our branches, we've given a clear instruction to our structures that individuals who are going to undertake those activities in the name of the ANC, we are going to deal with them. There was such individual in Limpopo. We brought him to the discipline of the party. Somewhere in Vegasford, who was making pronouncements as a branch leader. We have taken him through the disciplinary process. Any member of the ANC who deviate and all of that, and then undertake the mission of engaging in activities that are not sanctioned by the party, that relates to the issue of succession, those activities can only be characterized as disloyal and anti-revolution and anti-party activities. And they will be dealt with as such. And even individuals who are involved, they must disown such activities if they are undertaken in their name. And I know this notion that, no, you know, we must start early so that in 2027 we are on top. It doesn't work like that. Start early for what? When we are faced with an existential crisis. If the ANC is wiped out in local government because energy, focus, strategy was focused on pepping up individuals to lead the ANC, and we know what succession can do, T-shirts, songs, money circulation and all of that, in no time, branches will be off in terms of the tasks, and members of the ANC focused on who then leads the ANC. So we know what we're doing, and our membership have agreed with us, and at that time will come. So anyone who undertakes this thing of leadership, succession, and debate, that person doesn't love the movement. In fact, those people, their credentials and bona fides are questionable, so to say. Because we have never said that they will not have an opportunity to raise their candidates, talk about them, how good they are, how lovely they are, and all of that. And we are also going to address the issue of money, because there will be consequences with regard to that. You circulate money here and all of that in your name. We find it in the structures. You'll be disqualified as a candidate. There will be consequences, because we are not going to allow the ANC to be run with money, underground, dirty money. We're not going to allow that. If money is circulating in the branches and we find it in your name, the framework must include consequences, including the disqualification of people who are doing such things, including T-shirts. These people have got money for T-shirts. We don't have money to even pay staff. But there's money all the time. When individuals have got to stand, I'm at Lutulia House, I don't get paid. But people have got money for T-shirts. They want to use the ANC as a vehicle and a platform for their own personal aggrandizement. But they don't want to service the ANC to become a sophisticated, well-oiled machinery to serve the people of South Africa. But for their interest, they do have money. So there is money here. There is money. It's in abundance. And all of that. But we were in Muruleng, we didn't have money. We are everywhere, every day, we don't have money. But when it comes to individuals and their interest, there is money. ANC members, wherever they are in majority, I can tell you they understand and they appreciate this moment. Individuals who are perpetrating these activities, majority of them, they are not even in branches. They are employed by factions to undertake the mission of popularizing them. If you want to be a leader by obeying the rules of the organization and lead by example, and allow members to discuss you. Why you must be president, why you must be SG, why you must not be. And allow them at the end to elect delegates who will determine who must then be elected based on their conviction politically. So that we don't have surprise candidates. We are not going to have surprise candidates. Each candidate will be discussed. And that is going to be opened. What is the hurry in 2026 when we are facing a mammoth of task of elections? And then we just deal with this particular issue and all of that. It's a deviation. It's infiltration of the highest order. It has got all the hallmarks of counter-revolution. Counter-revolution will want to elevate the issue of succession, because they know if you want ANC attention and its members, the task and the most important subject that members like is succession. Who must lead? So we must intervene, guide our members that this is not the time to engage in such debate.
So let's start with the big question that everyone should be asking, but nobody is: why Patrice Motsepe and why now? Because this is not random. This is not some spontaneous campaign that just popped up. This is a calculated, strategic move that has been planned for months, if not years, and it represents a fundamental shift in how the ANC succession game is being played. So let me break this down for you. Patrice Motsepe is not your typical ANC politician. In fact, calling him an ANC politician is kind of misleading, because his entire career has been in business, not in party politics. He's never held government office. He's never been a provincial chairperson or a regional leader. He's never fought in the trenches of ANC branch politics. He's basically an outsider to the internal ANC power structures, even though technically he's been an ANC member. And that's exactly why he's so dangerous to people like Mbalula, because Motsepe represents a completely different model of ANC leadership that bypasses all the traditional gatekeepers and power brokers. Think about how ANC succession has traditionally worked. You start at branch level, you work your way up through regional structures, you become maybe a mayor or an MEC, then you become a provincial chairperson, you build alliances with other provincial leaders, you join one faction or another, you fight factional battles at conferences, you make deals and trade positions, and eventually, if you're successful and lucky, you position yourself for national leadership. And this system means that by the time someone gets to the top, they're completely embedded in the patronage networks. They owe favors to dozens of people. They're compromised by all the deals they've made. And most importantly, they can be controlled by the party machinery because they depend on it. But Motsepe didn't come up through that system at all. He made his money in mining and became a billionaire completely outside of politics. He married into the Ramaphosa family, which gave him connection to the inner circle but not dependence on party structures. He's been involved in various business and philanthropic activities, but never in the day-to-day grind of ANC branch politics. And what that means is he doesn't owe the traditional power brokers anything. He doesn't need their patronage networks. He doesn't need their money or their organizational support. He can fund his own campaign with pocket change and reach branches directly. And that terrifies the ANC establishment because it means they can't control him the way they control everyone else. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Motsepe is basically trying to run an American-style primary campaign in an ANC context, and this is revolutionary. In American politics, billionaires like Trump or Bloomberg can bypass party establishments by using their own money to reach voters directly through media and advertising and ground operations. And that's essentially what Motsepe is trying to do here. He's trying to use resources to build direct relationships with ANC branches without going through the traditional factional structures. And if he succeeds, it completely changes the game, because it means future candidates won't need to spend decades climbing the ANC ladder and making compromising deals. They can just raise or provide money and run insurgent campaigns directly to the membership. And this is why Mbalula is so obsessed with the money issue in his speech. It's not really about corruption or dirty money like he claims, it's about control, because the current ANC leadership controls access to party resources. They control who gets deployed to lucrative positions. They control the patronage that funds political careers, and that control is their primary source of power. But if someone can come in with their own money and their own resources and build support without needing any of that, then the leadership's control evaporates. They become irrelevant, and that's an existential threat to them. Now let's talk about Motsepe's actual viability as a candidate, because this is where it gets complicated. On one hand, he has massive advantages. He's got unlimited money. He's got name recognition from his business empire and from CAF. He's got a clean reputation with no corruption scandals. He's got connections to Ramaphosa, which gives him legitimacy in the current power structure. And he represents something new and different, which could appeal to ANC members who are tired of the same old faces and the same old factional battles. But on the other hand, he has some serious weaknesses that people aren't talking about. First, Motsepe has almost no struggle credentials. He was never in exile. He was never on Robben Island. He didn't fight in MK. He wasn't a trade unionist. He made his money during the post-apartheid era as a businessman. And in the ANC, struggle credentials still matter enormously. They're still the coin of the realm for legitimacy. And you see this in how ANC leaders constantly invoke their struggle history to justify their positions. So Motsepe's lack of struggle credentials is a real vulnerability, because his opponents can say he's not a real ANC person. He doesn't understand the movement. He's just a rich businessman trying to buy his way into leadership. Second, Motsepe has never demonstrated any ability to mobilize ANC branches or win factional battles. He's never organized for a conference. He's never built a political machine. He's never shown that he can actually do the grunt work of ANC politics, which is about branch meetings and slates and delegate manipulation and all the boring organizational stuff that determines conference outcomes. And it's one thing to have money and another thing to actually convert that money into delegate votes at a conference, because ANC conferences are incredibly complex organizational operations where you need people on the ground in every province managing branches and lobbying delegates and making deals. And it's not clear that Motsepe has the political skills or the organizational infrastructure to do that. Third, and this is really important, Motsepe is vulnerable to the same attacks that were used against Tokyo Sex Whale when he was positioning himself for leadership years ago, which is the accusation that he's an arriviste, a Johnny-come-lately billionaire who wants to buy the presidency, that he's not really committed to the ANC's values or to transformation, but just wants to use the presidency to protect his business interests. And this narrative is powerful in the ANC because the party has always had a complicated relationship with black capital. There's always been suspicion that black business people who got rich after apartheid are somehow less authentic or less committed to the struggle than people who came up through politics. But here's the thing, despite all these weaknesses, Motsepe is still a serious threat. And the reason is that he's entering the race at a very specific moment when the ANC is facing an existential crisis of legitimacy and support. The party just got 40% in the national elections. They're in a government of national unity with the DA, which many ANC members hate. They're facing potential disaster in the local government elections. And there's a widespread sense that the party has lost its way and needs fundamental change. And in that context, an outsider candidate who represents something new and different could actually have significant appeal even with all his weaknesses. Now let's contrast Motsepe with the other potential candidates in this race, because this is where the real chess game is happening. So you've got Mbalula himself, who clearly has presidential ambitions, even though he's trying to play it cool in this speech. You've got Paul Mashatile, the current deputy president, who many people see as the front runner. You've got Gwede Mantashe, who's from the older generation but still influential. You've got Ronald Lamola, who's young and ambitious. You might have someone like Nomvula Mokonyan or Fumulo Masuale from other factions. And each of these candidates represents different things and has different bases of support. Mbalula's pitch is basically that he's the organizational man. He's the one who understands how the ANC works. He was Secretary General. He rebuilt the party machinery after the Zuma years. He's a loyalist to Ramaphosa, but also has relationships across factions, and he can unite the party and win elections. But his massive weaknesses are that he's seen as arrogant and opportunistic. He's not ideologically coherent. He flip-flops on positions. He was a Zuma ally before becoming a Ramaphosa ally. And many people just don't trust him or find him too slick and too focused on his own advancement. Paul Mashatile is the current front-runner in most people's analysis because he's deputy president, which traditionally has been a stepping stone to the presidency. He's got support from the ANC's left wing, including Kosa Tu. He's from Gauteng, which is the biggest province. He's been working quietly to build support across provinces, and he represents continuity with the current government while also having some distance from Ramaphosa's failures. But his weaknesses are that he's been implicated in various corruption allegations over the years. He's seen as a machine politician who's all about patronage and deals, and it's not clear he has a compelling vision for where to take the country. Gwede Mantashe represents the SACP tradition and the old guard. He's got deep roots in the mining unions. He's ideologically coherent from a left nationalist perspective, and he has a base among people who think the ANC has become too neoliberal and too accommodating to white capital. But he's also old and associated with the Zuma era, and many people see him as yesterday's man who doesn't have answers for today's problems. Ronald Lamola is the young, ambitious option. He's clean, he's articulate, he performed well as justice minister, and he could represent generational change. But he's also very young and inexperienced. For ANC presidency, he doesn't have a strong provincial base, and it's not clear that the ANC is ready to jump to someone from a much younger generation when there are more established candidates available. So into this field comes Motsepe, with a completely different profile from any of them. He's not a traditional politician at all. He's a businessman and a billionaire. He's offering something radically different, which is basically a technocratic outsider presidency, where he would supposedly bring business efficiency and clean governance to the ANC. And the question is whether there's actually an appetite for that among ANC members, or whether they'll see him as an interloper who doesn't understand the movement. Now here's my real analysis of what's happening strategically that nobody else is talking about. I think the Motsepe campaign is actually not primarily about Motsepe winning. I think it's about something else entirely. I think it's about the Ramaphosa faction trying to shape the succession in a very specific way because, think about it, Motsepe is Ramaphosa's brother-in-law. He's clearly close to Ramaphosa, and there's no way this campaign launches without Ramaphosa's blessing, or at least his knowledge. So what is Ramaphosa's play here? Here's what I think is really going on. Ramaphosa knows he's done in 2027. He's not running again, but he wants to maintain influence over who comes next, because that will determine whether his legacy is protected or whether the party swings back to a more Zuma-style approach that would repudiate everything he's done. And Ramaphosa's problem is that the most likely successor, Paul Mashatile, is not really his guy. Mashatile was part of the coalition that made Ramaphosa president, but he's never been a true Ramaphosa loyalist. He's his own political operator with his own base,